So my name is Kyle Baranko. My employer is Kevala Analytics. I'm a data analyst on the data science team there, and I've been there for about 4 or 5 months now. Started in March, just when things started to get a little crazy. So I'm based in New York, but Kevala Analytics is based in San Francisco. So I was brought on to work full time from New York, which is where I'm based right now. So I graduated in 2018 with an international studies major. I concentrated in political economy, and I did the Catalyst program going into my senior year, so the summer of 2017. I was most heavily involved at Boston College in probably the freshman league program. I tried a couple of different things early on. I wrote for the Heights a little bit during my freshman and sophomore year, and then by senior year, I was pretty much just involved with the freshman league and busy writing my thesis. So my thesis was about the economics of energy transitions, and I graduated really wanting to work in renewable energy. So my first stop after graduation was a marketing agency dedicated to serving clients in climate tech. But after a while, I just became more interested in the actual technology and took some time off to do a data science boot camp, which is how I pivoted to where I am now.
Very cool. And then your free time, are you into like super outdoor stuff, like adventure kind of? Because you were in West Virginia at one point without Wi-Fi for the last panel.
Yeah, that's right. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, so I'm very much into hiking and skiing and camping and everything. But I was in kind of quarantining in Virginia with a couple close friends of mine from Boston College, actually. And one of them had a little family cabin out in West Virginia. So I spent a week there, and the Wi-Fi was good enough to send emails and do a bit of work, but not really strong enough to do a Zoom call.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you tonight.
Great to be here.
Yeah. Nina, you're up.
Awesome. So, hey everyone, my name's Nina Harrison. I graduated from BC in 2016, and I was, I think, one of the first Catalyst classes. I loved that program, definitely set me up for success. Currently, I work for Butterfly Network, which is a med tech startup in point of care ultrasound. So we make portable ultrasound probes. Prior to that, I was at General Electric for about 3.5 years, which was my first job after BC. My company now, Butterfly Network, is based in New York City, and I actually work remotely from Chicago. I was supposed to move to New York, and then the pandemic hit, so we're all remote now. When I was at BC, I was a clinical psychology major, and then I took as many classes as I could in the Carroll School of Management. So really enjoyed those, including Catalyst. I was part of Americans for Informed Democracy. I don't know if that's still a club. I did a public speaking club that I loved. And I was part of a management consulting club where we did case studies for big companies in the area like TJ Maxx and some of the pharmaceutical companies. And then I was a halftime retreat leader as well. So I was a transfer, so I wasn't at BC for all 4 years, but when I was, I spent most of my time pretending to be a business school student.
It's all good. And actually now, Nina, this will be year 2 that you can officially minor in the Carroll School from another, from another
That's
school.
awesome. So glad they made that change.
Yeah. And was your first job, were you in the commercial leadership sales program with GE? Okay.
I was in the commercial leadership program, and then became a full-time employee in their medical ultrasound business. And now I'm with Butterfly Network in client success, marketing, and product development.
Great, cool. Well, looking forward to hear more about that. Ryan, up to you.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I work for Cheddar Inc. in New York City. It's a new startup. I work on their growth team, and I do reporting, research, and surveys for them as well. I did Catalyst in the summer of 2015 with Nina. I graduated 2017 with a history major and a math minor. And I wasn't particularly involved in a lot of clubs. I did enjoy going to, my share of athletic events, tailgating, but I did do the Jenks Leadership Program, which was very rewarding for the 2 years that I was part of that.
Definitely. It's nice to have Monetta around the corner from me. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah. Is there a particular speaker you remember the most out of doing Jenks?
Bob Winston was great. He was, we did a retreat with him as one of the first ones. We also had a immigration lawyer who spoke to us. I forget her name, but she was a very powerful speaker, and her message was very strong. And that was before all the political events, took place. So it's definitely interesting to have that perspective and watch it unfold in the world.
Absolutely. Cool. And last but not least, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah. I graduated in 2018. I did Catalyst after my freshman year. I'm a computer science and econ major from BC. I work at Red Hat, which was acquired by IBM about a year ago. So our main office is out of Raleigh, but we have offices all over. So I live in New York City, but I travel most weeks for work, so I don't go into the office that much. At BC, I was involved in Women in Computer Science and Grace Hopper, so really trying to spread the word and get more people involved in coding competitions and hackathons.
Very cool. Is that program still active? So back at the very beginning of the summer, the Red Hat Academy, can students still do that? Is that an open option? I should send it to the group.
The Red Hat Academy, yeah, I'm trying to actually get that through the computer science department, and I think it'll be like a good one course credit, like taught by a TA, so I'm talking to some of the professors there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Cool. Well, great. Then the first question that I want to have you guys talk about is in the roles that you do, how has Catalyst helped you out in terms of kind of like the everyday life in the company that you work for and the role that you do? So we'll do Alpha again. So we'll start back up with Kyle.
Sure. I think I kind of emerged from the Catalyst program, still not knowing exactly what I wanted to do with my career, which is why I kind of bounced around a little bit. But I think what I really took away from the program was just the broad exposure to the different business disciplines in a way, just to get a taste of what my friends in CSOM were studying. I think the exposure to like the information systems module prepared me well to just understand like how SQL is written and structured, and kind of got my toes, dipped my toes into programming a little bit, and then took me 2 years to decide I wanted to do that full time. But I still think getting that exposure early was super helpful. As for my day-to-day job, I think like I mentioned, I was working at a marketing agency first, and for a lot of our clients, we were kind of just at the tip of the iceberg in doing media relations and outreach for them, running marketing communications campaigns. But knowing the different terminology that our clients would like mention over the phone and stuff, having an understand like a holistic view of the business and that we were working with, just really went a long way to creating the context necessary to do my job better. And then as for my current job with Kevala, we're only about 20 people. So again, I think having the well-roundedness that the Catalyst program provides allows me to, I still help out with at Kevala with a lot of marketing and business development stuff on the side. And just especially because we're going through a fundraising, the fundraising process now, like the background in financial accounting and finance and how cap tables work, that's just all very helpful to, again, getting a holistic understanding of the business that I'm working in.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Nina.
Yeah, Catalyst, honestly, one of the biggest things was just learning how to get your resume together and how to network. That was such a big part of just getting your foot in the door. And then once you're there, kind of knowing how to advance your career and keep growing. That was a huge part in Catalyst. But the other piece I really enjoyed, we did some negotiation workshops. I still use what I learned in those today. Computers and management, I remember doing the Excel test on paper and getting an abysmal grade on that, but I still use everything that we learned in that class today. And then the other would be just there's so many group projects that we did in Catalyst, and you're kind of thrown together with a small group of people. You have to get a deliverable together in a short time frame, sometimes in the evening. And that is total reality in startup life. You could get something thrown on your desk at 5 o'clock, and you just have to throw it together and be able to present it out the next day, figure out who's going to say what. Sometimes you're pulling stuff out of thin air, and that is a skill set that, first of all, it's really fun, and second of all, really good practice in that in Catalyst. So enjoy those late night sessions of trying to build a deck and present it out to your class the next day.
Over Zoom.
Over Zoom, yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Nina. Ryan.
I think, of course, whatever everyone else, what Kyle and Nina has said so far, rings true for me as well. I do remember the Excel class vividly, and I use a lot of that today. But also, just looking at problems from a unique perspective of having an arts and science background, history major. I don't really use it on a day-to-day, but, being able to write reports and tell stories of growth and where things are going and how trends look is very important because not everyone's going to be, data forward or working in the analytics that you're working in. So being able to sort of convey your message across multiple groups of people is something that's very important and something that, I took away from the Catalyst program.
Does Cheddar ever incorporate kind of like historical pieces with the videos that they do, in terms of how it shapes the economy or?
There's historical perspective for sure for, some of the economic reports, especially with like stimulus bills and the way the markets are moving. But it's not something that, has come up in my day-to-day other than, spewing out random facts at people that don't want to hear it.
Nice. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah, so I just want to echo what everyone else has said, but I think Catalyst made me comfortable being uncomfortable, especially being a consultant, being in front of clients, being on different teams. I don't work with the same team even within my own company. So just going into these classes, which I had never taken before, being thrown together on a project and just having to produce something and then present it in front of people is basically what I do for every single client. So just getting comfortable, like presenting and being in a situation you've never been in was my big takeaway from Catalyst.
Good. So how about challenges and rewards in terms of what you do, kind of giving a glimpse into a day in the life? What does a typical day, typical week look like for you, and challenges and rewards for, what's typical in your role and your career track?
So I think for me, it's a lot of like wearing your noise canceling headphones and just in a deep state of flow, which is kind of what I realized after my first gig, where having a bunch of clients, I was constantly on calls and switching between 5 different projects at a time. I really was looking for something that I was able to have some interaction with my coworkers, and I do have a few calls a day, but they're all internal now. And I think most of my time is spent either reading research papers kind of at the intersection of energy and data science, and looking at trends and how people have applied machine learning problems or machine learning algorithms towards energy, and how we can kind of roll up those big research questions into products for our clients. And then I'd say the other half of my job is really just implementing like the product vision and just working with my manager to say, okay, this is a feature that needs to be done. This is a research question we have. How can you like solve this problem? So a typical day is usually just a couple check-ins with my team or various stakeholders, and otherwise just working. And I think we kind of operate in 2-week development sprints. So like for any given sprint, I'll have like 2 or 3 larger problems that I need to tackle, and kind of switch back and forth between those. And then of course, I think of myself, and most people at my company as well, think of ourselves as like energy professionals first and foremost. And so I spend a lot of my time just staying up to date with the clean tech industry and reading about power markets and things that are pretty relevant for our clients, which are mostly electrical utilities.
Could you also, Kyle, give a quick definition of machine learning and what that really means?
Sure. So I think machine learning is the process of like combining statistical analysis with programming and software engineering. So it's kind of adding features into products that like predict different things, like for example, like your Instagram like news feed. That's machine learning on the back end because it's saving the data where you're interacting with the application, and it's figuring out the probability of like what you would like to look at any given time. So machine learning is kind of like an umbrella term. Like you can call some pretty simple math machine learning, and then you can also call like a lot of advanced stuff that people with PhDs in computer science and math are working on. But we're just like focused on using it to help our clients make better infrastructure decisions.
Cool. What's the most interesting thing you've come across as of late in your research in terms of like energy, something that surprised you?
Right now, I think, so I'm working on a project where it's a big problem in our industry to, like, for example, if you'd like to add a solar panel to your house, the utility needs to know how the service point and the transformer that it's directly on the poles that's leading into your house, like how that's kind of organized. And there's a couple different ways to do it. So we're working on a project where we've gotten the data from utilities and we're building a model to say like, okay, can you predict what the infrastructure will look like for a given neighborhood based on the amount of trees in the neighborhood or like the building types and stuff. But it's just like a really cool real world problem. And like I was on vacation in Maine last week, driving around an island in a golf cart, and I couldn't stop looking at the little pull top transformers and stuff leading into houses and thinking about it. So really applicable problems to the energy transition.
Yeah, thank you. Nina, passing the ball to you.
Yeah, definitely. So my former role at GE, the day in the life was very unique. You're training to be a medical sales professional. So 2 years of in the office and then on the job training, and then literally running around to different clients and meeting with them in person in hospitals, attending surgeries and ORs, being in clinical areas and actually watching them use the product and helping make sure that they're getting full value out of it. All sorts of in some cases, consulting engagements. So going into a large health system and literally running around counting devices and then presenting out a tech plan. So it's very, very hands-on. In my role now, because of the pandemic, a lot of that has been put over Zoom. So every day is a mix of meeting with clients to understand what's going on with their deployments over Zoom, and then also working with our engineers and product developers to make sure that we're putting the features that they need into those sprints upcoming, and really understanding their behavior and utilization remotely. So we're doing a lot more data analysis remotely and understanding how much they're using devices, and what behaviors we're trying to drive, and if the features we're putting out are helping drive those behaviors. So I used to be in a more sales role where it's really like running around and being in hospitals, and now I'm kind of on the other end of it, helping build the products day to day.
So when you interact with a client, who are you typically interacting with at the hospital?
Yeah, it's anywhere from the C-suite executives that are rolling this out across their enterprise. So they've made a pretty heavy investment in our product and they're trying to figure out how best to roll it out, to department heads and then actually individual clinicians that are using it. So surgeons, anesthesiologists, orthopedic, sports medicine, really the full gamut of everyone you'd find in a hospital. This morning I was working with a group of nurses, so it really depends.
Very cool. Thanks, Nina.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So primarily during my week, most of it is spent on reporting. One of the beauties of startups is that, a lot of things need to be established. So I was able to build our new reporting from the ground up, do it the way I want to do it. But it does consume, a great deal of my time. We have weekly reports, monthly reports, reporting from anything from our YouTube channel to our social channels, revenue and linear growth. When I'm not doing that, I'm focused on newsletter growth. So I work with our editorial team to send out a weekly and a daily newsletter and tactics on how to grow that list. I've also recently gotten involved in our research and surveys. So, statistics you'd see on a typical news broadcast, but also informing our content team about what our audience is and what they like and what they don't like about our content, testing out different aspects of the brand that we want to explore, and really getting, that opinion from the audience to make sure that we're never doing something that's going to cause us to not grow.
That's very cool. And when you do that sort of like share information and stuff like that, obviously pre-COVID, what would that have looked like, in terms of like, how do you pass it on to the content writers? And do you literally sit in a room and talk through kind of like the data and how to change it up? Like talk through a story. That'd be really kind of cool to hear.
Yeah, sure. So funny enough, I actually started this job 3 weeks before we had to go work from home. So I haven't had the in-room experience, but now it's a lot of, we run a survey, typically through Facebook or sometimes through SurveyMonkey. I collect the answers, and then it's kind of going from the big picture down to like a grain of salt of what we want to focus on, putting that into a slideshow presentation and then presenting it to a group of people over Hangouts at this point. Again, goes back to being able to tell a story and communicating across different teams and different minds across the company.
Sure. What particular topics have you seen kind of like trending in people want more of, or dare I ask?
Recently we did a back to school survey to sort of gauge the opinion of the audience on if they actually care what's going on. And it's interesting to see that mothers are eager to get their kids back to school. Fathers, not so much. They're a little more cautious about it, which is a trend that I thought would be the opposite, but always surprising with these answers that we get back.
That is. So the age range of the kids, was it a certain age range of kids, or was it just K-12?
We went all the way up to college. College parents, they want their kids out of the house, not surprisingly there. But high school through pre-K, it's pretty much right down the middle of whether they care or not, how concerned they are. And most of them want the kids out of the house.
I could understand that. Sarah, over to you.
Yeah, so my day-to-day kind of depends on where I'm at and like an engagement. So my engagements can be anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. Before COVID, I was flying out every Sunday night and then flying back home Thursday. I work in public sector, so I was flying to bases. So I was going to San Antonio, Colorado Springs, and working with their dev teams. So it usually starts right now. I'm just starting a project, so it's just a major knowledge dump. So we've been doing everything over video calls. So we're screen sharing. We're just trying to get everything in, and then we meet with the clients, and then we hop on an internal call, and we're just trying to diagnose some of the issues and figuring out basically sprint planning, how we're going to achieve what the client wants, keep everyone happy, keep the project scoped so that there's not a ton of extra work. So right now that's where I'm at, and then we'll go through sprints and get it done. And then the end of my projects usually consist of mentoring and teaching the clients and kind of handing it over to them.
And you work with a lot of government clients. So what do you enjoy with working with the public sector?
Yeah, it definitely has its drawbacks. It's a little slower. It's a little behind in technology. But we just wrapped up a project like 2 weeks ago, and like someone high up in the Air Force actually posted on LinkedIn like the application we were working on. So you kind of get lost in it when like you're debugging code, but then seeing the impact and thinking about how many people this is going to help and seeing a finished product. It's pretty amazing.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you see it go out over social media in a professional way.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat. Did you say who your current client is right now, Sarah? I know it's
The Air Force.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a different branch in the Air Force.
Very cool. All right, guys. So we're already kind of to our last question, and this is advice that you have for breaking into the field that you do and your company. You know, what are some of the best ways to break into that industry, that company, and your role? Tips and suggestions that you have. So we'll start with you, Kyle, as normal.
Sure. So I think it really took me a while to break into. I didn't have a job when I graduated, and by the end of my the summer after that senior graduation, I was really still in trying to talk myself into anything and just trying to move out of the house and get situated. But first and foremost, I always really wanted to work in climate tech, and the best advice I got during my senior year was reaching out to BC alums and people who I had connections to on LinkedIn, which the Catalyst program taught me how to do, which was very helpful. And even though a lot of those conversations didn't lead directly to job opportunities, just I got some great advice. But one of the guys said to me, like, the world is organized to respond to people with passion. And so I think especially when you're trying to break into an industry, think about like the bigger problems that like the industry is trying to solve, or that all the companies are working towards, and just start consuming content and really building up a knowledge base of how the industry works. And I'd say that really helped me as I moved into programming and data science as well. Is I knew through my work experience previously that there were lots of data science problems in renewable energy. How do you how do you kind of orchestrate all these different assets on the electricity grid? And every single like project I did through my bootcamp program and personally was all tilted towards like solving a renewable energy problem. And I think when you're trying to get a job as like a programmer, a more technical job, showing your passion for the industry specifically is helpful, and really focus on projects. And that allows you to kind of have this great feedback loop where the more projects you do on something specific, the more domain knowledge you get about it, but also you're excited about it. So you're just continuing to build those technical skills. So I would say definitely focus on to get a job as a data scientist, just really think about the big picture problems and try to solve real world problems, and the technical skills and stuff will follow just the more time you put into it.
Great, thanks. Cool. And the great thing is that it's found in so many different industries. So yeah. Nina.
Great. Yeah, I would echo everything Kyle said in terms of definitely you want to get as much domain knowledge as you can, like learn about the industries that you're applying for jobs in. Networking is everything. Absolutely. So many BC alums helps me along the way. Definitely get my foot in the door at my first company. In med tech specifically, everyone wants to hire someone that has some healthcare experience. So just some understanding of what it's like actually in a hospital or in a clinic. And there's lots of different things you can do to check those boxes. When I'm reading resumes, I'm always looking for someone that maybe they volunteered in a hospital, or they did a project on something healthcare related, because it is a very complicated industry, and it's such an advantage if you understand what it's like in a hospital for us from a product development standpoint, from serving our clients. So anything you can do to expose yourself to the healthcare industry, and everyone knows someone that is involved in some way. If you can shadow someone, even like a one-day experience or a project for Catalyst, it goes a long way when you're interviewing, that you've showed some interest and you've done something.
Great. Thank you for throwing in those good career tidbits. I appreciate that. Ryan.
So, networking goes a long way for sure. That's how I found my first job. It was at a internet insurance company focused on seniors. Obviously not like the most exciting job, But, one of the great benefits of working there was it was a small company of about 8 people. So it allowed me to explore and try a bunch of different things until I found something I was good at. There's actually a Catalyst professor, Ed Taylor, who used to say that your first job after finding your first job is looking for your second job. So I would say apply that now, be a sponge, learn as much as you can. There are programs on the internet that, you could take a quick course that will take you a week and you could learn something brand new, throw it on your resume, and it may be the skill that someone's looking for. So always, putting yourself in a position to sell yourself and being that piece that's, missing from a company puzzle.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Great quote from Professor Taylor too, as well. And Sarah?
Yeah, I think all of us have said it, but definitely networking. Look in your LinkedIn connections, look in BC, and even if you don't know someone that well, the worst that can happen is that they don't respond to you. I actually got my job because I had a few internships in college, but I didn't love them. But there was actually a Red Hat consultant on my team. So I reached out a year later and just started talking to him, and he referred me. So you really never know how you're going to get your job. And then I'm actually on some hiring panels of college recruits. So I think the number one thing we look for is you're excited. When people come in and their head's just down, you don't want those people on your team. So even if you don't know everything, being willing to learn, being excited, I think is really what we look for. And also Googling the company before, having specific questions. Even if you know who's interviewing you, like look them up, connect with them on LinkedIn. Anything that can make you stand out is really what we look for.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. That was a great story about, it's so true. You never know, like people that you meet in the past, how they can play a part in decisions that you make in the very near future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So at this point, I usually do the Q&A. We have just Emma and Daniela who are on. So they may have a question, they may not have a question. I'm just going to pause the recording.